Good morning, Moray Rabotai. We are continuing on Masechet Avodah Zarah. We are on Daf Chet Amud Aleph, 25 lines down from the top of the Amud. Today's Amud is being learned. L'schut Yehoshua ben Diana, Bat Rivka, Moshe ben Asi. Today's Amud is also being learned. Leilu Nishpat Tzipora bat Yitzchak. We started the second Mishnah of enumerating the Chagim, the holidays of the Avodah Zarah, and the Gemara gave a little synopsis of the history that the first two chagas that are mentioned in the Mishnah over here, the 8 days after Tekufat Tevet, the 8 days before Tekufat Tevet, really start from Adam HaRishon nonetheless, and it was Nityased, it was founded originally L'Shem Shamayim, for the happiness that Adam HaRishon had from the world existing and continuing despite his failure. And then the future generations, really, they followed this as a core of Avodah Zarah, respecting the Kochavim u'Mazalot, the stars and galaxies and so on and so forth. And we saw together in the Rambam, how Rambam understood that Dor Enosh, when they started Avodah Zarah in masses, really the whole thing started like that, respecting first the powers that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has instilled in the world, as a recognition for the power and the majesty of Hashem himself. And then their grandchildren, they only remembered the bowing to the Kochavim u'Mazalot and going to those Batei Avodah Zarah and temples. They did not remember the source of this, the origin of HaKadosh Baruch Hu being really behind everything. And as we mentioned before, for a goy, it's questionable. It's machloket rishonim really, if that's considered shituf, is considered avodah zarah, or it's not considered avodah zarah. But of course, for us, that would be considered avodah zarah. That's what Rambam writes in the beginning of the second perek in Hilchot Avodah Zarah. Ikar hatzivui ba'avodah zarah shelo la'avod et echad mikol haberuim. The main concept of avodah zarah is not to worship any of the creatures. Lo malach velo galgal, not an angel, not a galaxy or a star. Velo echad ma'arba'a yesodot, none of the fundamental yesodot in the world. Velo echad mikol hanivraim mehem, or nothing that has been created from those. Ve'af al pi she'ha'oved yodea she'Hashem hu ha'elokim, even though that the person serving recognizes that the real monotheism exists and HaKadosh Baruch Hu has created these powers, but he also והוא עובד הנברא הזה על דרך שעבד אנוש ואנשי דורות תחילה, and he is doing the service to these creatures the same way Enosh did. In other words, recognizing HaKadosh Baruch Hu as the ultimate creator and respecting something that Hashem has given power to as a tag-along, as an attachment to that. Says the Rambam, Hareze oved avodah zarah. That will be considered avodah zarah, of course, for us, at least. Ve'inyan zehu shehizira alav Torah v'amra, and this is exactly what the Torah means when it says, Upen tisa einecha shamayma, lest you will look to Shamayim, and you'll see v'ra'ita et hashemesh v'tayareach, you'll see the sun and the moon, v'et hakochavim and the stars, asher chalak Hashem elokecha otam lechol ha'amim. That these are things that the goyim do, and you should not be doing them, which means, kelomar shema tashud be'en libecha v'tir'eh, she'elu hem hamanhigim et ha'olam, and you will recognize that these are things that control the powers in the world, the heat, the light, the photosantas, and so on and so forth, and you are going to be drawn after them because HaKadosh Baruch Hu has divided the control of the world through these things. And you'll think that you should respect these things, and that's exactly when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, do not do it. That's something that the goyim do, but not you. So that's the Rambam. Now, this is not the only Rambam. Rambam actually speaks clearly about Natsrut, about the Christianity, as it being considered Avodah Zarah. Rambam writes about Islam, that is considered a religion that has his language is en be'emunatam shun dofi. There's no problem with the faith of the Muslim religion, Islam, that's considered complete achdut of Hashem. Monotheism is what they believe in, and they have a belief in prophets and so on and so forth. But the relationship with the Creator is a flawless relationship, Rambam writes, and therefore is not considered Avodah Zarah per se. He writes this in several places in his Tshuvot. He of course writes this in Igeret HaShmat, famously writing about this in specific, but he also writes in several places that Natzrut, it will be considered Avodah Zarah, even though that the belief to God is the same belief to the one and only, but nevertheless they mix this with their emunah to Yashka, and therefore it will become a problem. At some point we will have to discuss how it is that the Baalei Tosafot actually wrote this in the beginning of our Gemara. They write it in the beginning of Masechet Bechorot, of how it is that in the Christian countries you would do business with them. Doesn't it say over here in the Gemara, in our Mishnah, that 3 days before you cannot do it, before the Chaga, you cannot do business with them? And the Tosafot understand famously that this is not necessarily considered Avodah Zarah. This is hinted to in the beginning of our Masechta, in Daf Bet in Masechet Avodah Zarah, but it's really explained elsewhere. Specifically in Masechet Bechorot, in the beginning, in Daf Bet, the Tosafot explained that the shituf that they have is not necessarily considered a problem for them. It's not considered an Avodah Zarah. But that by itself lends itself to a different machloket achronim, how to understand, what do you mean that it's not asur for them to mix something else with this? You could say that when a goy thinks HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and in the thanking of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he mixes other manifestations of Hashem in his mind, that it manifests in a body and so on. You could say that that is not asur, because lo yishama al picha, that the name of Elohim Acherim, the other gods, should not be heard on your lips. You could say that that for a goy is not asur if he mentions God and he means Hashem, and he also means something else as manifestation of Hashem. But the actual Avodah Zarah, the service that they do, even b'shituf, even if you mix something else with it, that still is considered Avodah Zarah nevertheless. So that's, for instance, the Shita of Nodab Yehuda, Rabbi Yechaskel Landa. So that becomes a little bit more complex, how it is that nowadays, which we live amongst the people who have that faith, how does our business dealing operate within the halacha, and especially when it comes to the season of their chagim, the upcoming seasons of their chagim, when you have the end of year, and that's the highest time for business, how exactly that works, which is something that Be'ezrat Hashem will have a halachic talk about it in a timely manner. So says the Gemara. Now let's go a little bit further. So we spoke about the fact that Adam HaRishon instituted the Kalanda and Starnura, what was later known as these two chagas of the Avodah Zarah. He meant well, but they took it the wrong way, and it became a chaga of the Kochavim. So says the Gemara, Bishlama. Now, let me give you a preface for this. In Masechet Rosh Hashanah, we have a machloket Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua that is mentioned multiple times in Shas, in many different sugyas. And the machloket is, when was the world created? Now, generally speaking, when we get to Tefillot of Rosh Hashanah, we say, Hayom Harat Olam, Hayom Ya'amid B'Mishpat, today was the birthday of the world, right? Which would mean that B'Tishrei Nivra HaOlam, that the world was created in Tishrei, right? So that's the normal, that means the first day of Adam HaRishon's life on earth was the first day of Tishrei, was Rosh Hashanah, so therefore Adam HaRishon on his original birthday is judged every year, right? Which would mean that really the world was created 5 days prior to that, start of the creation, and Adam HaRishon was born on 8a-8b Tishrei. So that's the general thought that we have, but that happens to be a Machloket Tanaim. Is it B'Tishrei Nivra HaOlam, or is it B'Nisan Nivra HaOlam? Right? We know that HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem, Rosh Chodashim, Rishon Hu Lachem, the Chodesh Hashanah is said not about Tishrei. Tishrei is actually what number of month? 7th month. So really, B'Nisan Nivra HaOlam is another shita. So says the Gemara, wait a second. So you're telling me that Adam HaRishon made these days as a Yom Tov because when he saw it right prior to Tekufat Tevet, he saw that the days were shortening and shortening and shortening and shortening, and he thought it's going to be the end of the world because he sinned. Right? But that works only if he hadn't seen diminishing hours of the day prior to that. Which means, if B'Tishrei Nivra HaOlam, if the world was created in Tishrei, right? So then you have Tishri, Cheshvan, Kislev, Tevet. That is the shortest, shortening, and then he thinks the world is coming to an end, and then when he sees for the very first time that the days become longer, he says, oh, must be that this is Minhago Shel Olam, must be that this is the world, the way the world operates, and therefore the world is now coming to an end. That I understand. But if B'Nisan Nivra HaOlam, then Adam HaRishon has been around for another number of months, and Nisan really, it's the beginning of summer, the days become long, and then the days become short. So he has seen this phenomenon already in the world. So what exactly is the understanding of this? Because every piece of Shas has to fit in this machloket, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehoshua. So that's what the Gemara is going to be asking. Bishlam al Amar Betishrei. See, the first word is Betishrei in line, in the 26th line. Betishrei Nivra HaOlam, Yom Azuti Chaza Yom Ha'arichi Akete Lo Chaza. Then I understand why he was concerned, because he has seen shortening of the days, but he hasn't seen long days. He hasn't seen days becoming long. But according to the Mandamar, the world was created in Nisan. He has seen short days and long days. So what's there to be surprised and concerned? Says the Maram, the Habizuti Kulahai Lo Chaza. Says correct. In the equinoxes of Nisan, and well, equinoxes may have been a little bit differently before the Mabul, so that's for the way we have it now on a tilt, and the seasons the way they are is a little bit maybe different. Perhaps there were no seasons before the sin of Dora Mabul and before the Mabul, but nevertheless, still the shortening and longing of the days perhaps was there. So says the Gemara, he had seen short and long days, but not to this extent. Tekufat Tevet, right prior to Tekufat Tevet, deep in the winter, that's like the shortest days, where you have like 14, 15 hours of night, and just about 9 or 10 hours of daylight, and that really feels like the world is coming to an end. The whole thing is becoming darker and darker and darker. That's when you start thinking to yourself that maybe perhaps this is going to be the final days of the world, and the world is coming to an end. So that's why he started being concerned, because he had not seen that short of a day. He actually had seen short days, but when he realized that these short days are not like those short days, and it's becoming like exceedingly short, that's when he became concerned. Tanu Rabbanan, Yom Sheni, this is the second braita that is really saying the same message as the previous one. Yom Shenivra bo Adam Rishon, kevan sheshaka alav chama. This is the day that Hashem created Adam Rishon, and that day many things happened. The Gemara in Sanhedrin goes through the whole process of every hour of the 12 hours of the day in the day Adam Arishon was created in, and the sunset of that day, this is already after the sin has happened. Adam Arishon ate from the tree already the first day, right? So it says the Gemara, Kevan sheshaka alav chama, Amar oili shebishvil shesarachti olam chashuch badi. Woe to me that because of my sin, now the world is coming to darkness and to an end. V'yachzor olam letohu vavohu, and this seems like it's going back to the emptiness and destruction and desolation. V'zoi mita sheniknesa alai. It must be that this is the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring upon me the death that has been decreed, that he told me, now biyom acholcha mimenu mot tamut, you're going to die the day that you eat from this. He was sitting, fasting and crying. Kol halayla, the entire night he was crying. And Chava was sitting in front of him crying. She was crying, he was crying. It was a pretty depressing situation. And all of a sudden, after a few hours, they realized from the other side, the light is coming up, and they saw the daylight. It says the Gemara, Amar minago shel olamu. He realized that there is a phenomenal called night and day, and this is just the way the world operates. This is the first night that he had experienced in his life. And Amad v'yikriv shor shkarnav kodmin leparsotav. And he brought an oxen as a korban. This is the first korban that Adam Arishon brought. That its karnaim, its horns, were before its feet and its parsotav. That means it was created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu directly. Normally speaking, when you have a creation of an oxen, is born as a calf and doesn't have horns in the beginning. So parsotav, the legs, the feet, are created first, of course, before there's any horn to be had for an oxen. But the one that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, the horns were actually created before, because they came from the Adamah, and when they came standing, you could imagine that the first thing that came out is the head and the horns, and then afterwards the feet. So that's what he means, that he brought not one of the children of the offsprings of the animals that was created, but one of the ones that was directly created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that it was a unique creation with the way everything was was created in the world was as adults. Like Adam Arishon was not created as a baby, was created as an adult, and so was everything that is in the world. When mountains that take millions and billions of years to be created were created as the way we see it right now, and all the fossils and everything was created already inside the world, the way we could have it right now. So it could take tens of years for a creature to grow up to become like Adam Arishon. It could take millions of years for a mountain to become in a regular world, like the mountain that you have right now. But all of those were there in the first day of creation. Hashem created a full world. So Adam Arishon brought a korban from that which already was created by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shenemar v'titav la'Hashem mishor par makrin mafris. The pasuk says it was a shore that Adam Arishon brought was makrin mafris. That was the karnaim was first before the parsot, the hooves. Says the Gemara. V'amar Rabbi Yehuda Shmuel shor sheyikrib Adam Arishon. Shmuel said, "Keren achad hayalo." He only had one horn in its forehead. It was a unicorn. Says the Gemara. How do you know that? Shenemar v'titav la'Hashem mishor par makrin mafris. The same pasuk that it was makrin mafris. So the Gemara says, wait a second. Makrin tarti mashma. All makrin means is it was bal karnaim. It had horns, and regularly when you see animals who have horns, how many horns do they have? 2. So where are you getting the unicorn thing from? Well, how do you know that it was only one keren? Makrin doesn't mean one keren. It just means it had horns. And regularly, animals have 2 horns. Last we checked. So where you get this from? The Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak mikeren ketiv. We read the pasuk makrin, which would have been written mem kuf resh yud nun, but if you take a look at Tanakh, it doesn't have, it's missing the yud. We read it, but it's not there. It's written mem kuf resh nun. Mikeren, which means Karen means only one horn, and therefore we darshin that you had only one horn. So says the Gemara, Rav Matna, Amar Rav Matna, Romi shasta kalanda v'chol ha'ayarot asmuchot la mishtabedot la otan ha'ayarot asurot o mutarot. He asked a fundamental question. You have the Roman Empire. They believe in the holidays of Kalanda and Starnura, and then you have cities that they have captured. These cities that they've captured, they don't really believe in those things, but they are meshubad, they are subordinate to the Roman Empire. They're one of the cities or countries that were under the government of Rome. So are they also Asur or are they not Asur? So they're Goyim who live in these cities who are not necessarily of that belief themselves, but they are considered part and parcel of the empire of Rome. So therefore they celebrate those things, but they don't really believe in them. It's not their religion. So is that considered Asur also, and hence 3 days before Kalanda and Starnura, we can't do business even with those countries, the people who live in those cities that are subordinated to Rome, or maybe it's mutar. So says the Gemara, Rabbi Shua ben Levi Amar, Kalanda Asura lekol. Here, Rabbi Shua ben Levi says, Kalanda is Asur for everybody. Rabbi Yochanan Amar, Ein Asura ela leovdeha. Rabbi Yochanan says, no, it's mutar. If they don't really serve this, they don't really believe in it, even though that they are part of the Roman Empire, and therefore they are in a place that this is celebrated, still, if they don't serve it, you're mutar to do business with them. That's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Tarak vated Rabbi Yochanan. We learned a braita that supports the shita of Rabbi Yochanan. What's the braita? Afar pisha amru, Romi asta kalanda v'chol ayarot asmuchot la. Even though that we say that Romi made this holiday of Kalanda, and all of the cities that are around the Roman Empire, Mishtabedodla, they are subordinated to the empire of Rome. Hiatzma ena asura ela leovdeha bilvad. It itself is not asur, but to the people who actually serve it only. So says the Gemara, Starnalia, which is the same thing as Starnuram, Kartesim, and that Kartesim is the day that the Roman Empire became an empire, the way the glory of the Rome was. V'yom genusa shel malkehem, and that's the day that the king would be nominated and start acting as the new king. V'yom shehumlach bo melech lefanav asur acharav mutar. So all of these days of the goyim, before it is asur, but acharav mutar, afterwards it will be mutar. Ve'od kochavim shasa mishteh lebenom, and a goy that does a party for the wedding of his son. Now this is the raya that the Gemara wants to bring. A goy that makes a party for his son, ein asur ela oto hayom ve'oto ha'ish. That is asur only. This is not a countrywide governmental Yom Tov, but this is a personal Yom Tov. So therefore, a goy that makes a party for his son, it's only asur that day, not 3 days before. Le'oto hayom ve'oto ha'ish, and only that person. So says the Gemara, okay, I understand. Let's read one more line before the Gemara brings the punchline. Amar Rav Ashi, Afanan la mitanina. Rav Ashi says, we also learn in the Braita, the katani yom tiglachatz kala u'belorito, that the day once a year that the goy gets a a shave, he shaves his beard, or he shaves his head, his ponytail. V'yom she'ala bo min hayam, and the day that he was saved from a sea tragedy, he survived the sea trip, and he came alive. V'yom she'atza bo min bet asurim, and the day that he was saved from jail and he was not killed, ein asur ela oto hayom bilvad. That is only asur for that same day, not 3 days beforehand. Ve'oto ha'ish, and that person himself. So says the Gemara, Bishlama oto hayom la'afukin lefanav v'la'acharav. Says the Gemara, I understand all of these things that you say, the day that he makes a wedding for his son, the day he shaves his beard, the day he shaves his ponytail, the day he came alive from jail or alive from a sea trip, that the Braita says it's only asur that day and that man. So it says, I understand that day. That day is coming to tell you, not the 3 days beforehand, and not like Rabbi Ishmael 3 days afterwards. So that we understand. But what does he mean, oto ha'ish? What is that coming to exclude? What do you mean it's asur only to do business with that man? Says the Gemara, ve'oto ha'ish, ela oto ha'ish la'afuke mai, lav la'afuke meshabdav shemaminam. Isn't it coming to tell you that even if this man is a powerful man, and he has workers, and he has people, avadim, he has people who are subordinated to him, and still it would only be asur to do business directly with him, but not with his workers. Oto ha'ish means what? That only that man is asur. So of course I would know that his fifth cousin 7 times removed is not going to be asur. That I know. You don't have to tell me oto ha'ish for that. It means the extension of the man is still mutar. What's the extension of a man? Extension of a man is people who are subordinated to him, his servants, his workers, the people who are attached directly to him. Even those is mutar. So the Gemara wants to bring a proof from here, like Rabbi Yochanan, that even though that the Roman Empire believes and celebrates Kalanda and Starnura, but still is going to be mutar for you to do business with cities that are under the umbrella of Roman Empire, but they don't really believe and they don't serve the Kalanda and the Starnura, even though that they have to celebrate it because of the subordination that they have to the general mother country of Rome. So that's the proof that the Gemara brings, and the Gemara says, good, Shema Mina. Tanya, we learned in the Braita. Rabbi Ishmael Omer, Yisrael shebachutz ha'aretz uvdei avodat kochavim b'ta'ara. And this is a very beautiful line in the Gemara. It makes all of us of the Avodah Zarah. Over here in the United States of America, says the Gemara, Rabbi Ishmael said, all of the Jews who live outside Eretz Yisrael, they are considered of the Avodah Zarah betara. They're innocent of the Avodah Zarah. Now, this is not the only Gemara that says this. The Gemara says also in Masechet Ketuvot Daf Kuf Yud Aleph that if you hadar bechutz la'aretz, if you live in chutz la'aretz, you're considered kemi she'en lo Eloah. It's like a person that doesn't have a God, right? And there the Maral, the Marsha, they explain because every country, spiritual forces that govern the brachot, the shefa that comes to every country is through a malach. Eretz Yisrael is directly under HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Lo ali de malach, lo ali de saraf, lo ali de shaliach. But other countries, each one of them have their own malach. And the shefa that you as a Jew even get goes through that filter, goes through that malach of the sareh umot haolam, of the governing agents of Umot HaOlam, and you're getting your shefa from them, which is equivalent of Elohim Acherim. That's the Gemara in Ketuvot. But here he's saying that you can't escape the reality of living with Avodah Zarah when you're in Chutz La'aretz, and the Gemara explains. Says the Gemara, how does that work exactly? Ketzad, Oved Kochavim Sha'asa Mishteh Lebeno, a goy that makes a party for his son, and he includes in his party all of the Jewish friends that he has in his city. And they come with their own food from the best restaurant, Basar Bet Yosef, Bishul Israel, Sephardi, of course it's going to be Yashan, because Chadash Asur Doraita, and all of that. They bring their own food, and they bring their own mashgiach, and they bring their own catering over there, sub-catering under the... Says the Gemara, V'shamash shelahen omed lifnehem, they have their own shamash helping them out, pouring the wine for them, so it's not everything is kasher v'yashar lemahadrin min hamahadrin. Alehem hakatuv, ma'ale alehem hakatuv ki'ilu achlu mizivchei metim. Hashem considers for them as though they ate the food of Avodah Zarah. Why? Why is that considered a problem? So says the Gemara, Shenemar, ve'kara lecha v'achalta mizivcho. He will invite you and you will eat from his zevach, from his sacrifice to the gods, to the Avodah Zarah. Ve'ema ad de'achil. So the Gemara says, wait a second. The pasuk says, "Va'achalta mizivcho." You will eat from the zevach. So it will be mashma. It seems from the pasuk that until the moment that you eat from the zevach, you're good to go. So just don't eat from the zevach, and you're good to go. Bring your own food, your own shabash, and you should be fine. The Gemara says, no. Amar Rava, im ken nema kerava achalta mizivcho. Then the pasuk should have just sufficed by saying ve'achalta mizivcho. Why does the pasuk says ve'kara lecha? Now he will invite you, you will accept the invitation, and then you will eat. Says the Gemara, mishat kriya already is considered that you participate in his avodah zarah. When you participate in his simcha, that's already considered participation in his avodah zarah, and therefore it's a problem. So when he says, Rabbi Ishmael, that of the people who live amongst the avodah zarah Israel, hadarin, the chutz laaretz, they're considered of the avodah zarah b'tahara, means you end up having a problem of participation with avodah zarah without even knowing it. Because when was the last time you thought, when you read that pasuk, that that when he invites you and you heed the invitation and you go there, that already is considered participation in Avodah Zarah. We don't think that, but the pasuk is saying it, says Rabbi Ishmael, and therefore we all end up having this problem if we live that type of a life in chutz laaretz, in Israel, hadarim, bechutz laaretz. So that's the Rabbi Ishmael's drasha. Is you have a very similar drasha to this in Chod Ribit as well. In Perek Ezuneshech, in the 5th Perek of Baba Metzia, there the Gemara says that to charge Ribit is one issue, to have interest, non-kosher interest, but there the Gemara says that from the moment that you sign a contract that you're going to pay or charge rebate, already you have the Yisur. Even the person that signs the contract has a problem. And that similar drasha from here, and here also you have this, which is a fascinating concept. Why exactly it is that from the moment that you sign up, so to speak, to go to the party, you're considered Ovdei Avodah Zarah. How does it work that you could be Ovdei Avodah Zarah without even knowing that you're participating in something of Avodah Zarah? Is something that Be'ezrat Hashem will continue and we'll start the shiur with in the next shiur. Chazak u'baruch.
Baruch.
Rabbi.